Welcome to Command Control Power, a weekly podcast hosted by 3 certified members of the Apple Consultants Network, drawing from nearly half a century of combined experience. We talk shop, interview vendors and colleagues, and share what we've learned while operating our technology consulting practices. This is Joe Saponari of SciMac, and my 2 co-hosts are Jerry Zigmont of MacWorks and Sam Valencia of the HCS Technology Group. We also offer a weekly email newsletter which includes show notes for each episode. Learn more at commandcontrolpower.com. And thanks for listening. This episode of Command Control Power is brought to you commercial-free and is made possible by our Patreon sponsors. You can help bring more commercial-free episodes by going to patreon.com/CMDCTRLPWR and supporting the show with a monthly pledge. Thank you for your support of Command Control Power.
I was on the phone yesterday with a client, and back-to-back calls yesterday. It was kind of hectic. Yeah, I spilled water. I knocked over a glass of water, and I quickly I'm like on the, she probably heard it, she probably heard the glass like hitting the desk, but I like instinctively was like, whoops, and I like picked up my computer, went and grabbed a towel and started mopping it up and stuff. So the computer's fine, thankfully, so far, but when I plugged in my audio, it was like clicking repeatedly. Like I heard it connect and then disconnect, and I saw the lights flash on my little audio box thing. So So I'm using the other port on my 2-port Mac, but
how long has that been now?
Well, no, I did this yesterday, and then I just tried the port when I was first connecting to Skype, and it wasn't working. I tried switching back and forth, but yeah, so that one port doesn't recognize power coming in from there.
Well, you could be like a client and say, "Well, it was only a little bit, though."
Yeah, exactly. I was already thinking about this.
Excuse me, only a little bit? Oh, then you're okay.
In that case.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Joe. That's an awful feeling.
I know. I'm gonna reboot and see. I mean, not now, but like I haven't rebooted since then, so maybe that's gonna bring it back. Otherwise, I'll try an SM. Was there such thing as an SMC? Anyway, we should do a show, but
just pass it on to Ashley. She'll never know the difference.
No, she will, and then it'll be my problem at some point. But anyway,
speaking of reaching out to Apple, this is on one of my list of things to talk about. My wife is just at the edge of her Apple Care running out on a Touch Bar MacBook Pro from, I think, 2018. That sounds about right? I call up Apple. I'm in the queue for Apple Care, and I'm hearing the beep, beep, boop, 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 boop.
Oh, yeah.
Boop, 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 boop. That fired me up right there, right? The fake noise is like there's some sort of higher power computing going on in the background, taking care of your call.
Right.
And then before I even spoke to a representative, they wanted to know how we did. Participate.
Come on, what are you doing? What are you doing? Flashbacks from previous shows, greatest hits. They really asked you that. That's like your trigger question.
Right. Like step by step, inch by inch. What was that from? Abbott and Costello were stuck in jail with some guy, and he had a trigger word. And every time they would say the trigger word, he would go into this like psychotic rage.
I don't know. I don't know that reference.
We'll have to put that in the show notes. Yeah, so then they're asking me, if I want to participate. I don't want to participate. I just want you to send me a box. So my wife's battery was service battery, and it wasn't taking a charge. And so I'm speaking to this representative, and she's like asking me all the questions. Did you turn off Find My? And I said, yeah, that's been disabled. So how long has this been going on? I just noticed it. It's not my computer. It's my wife's computer. I just noticed this a couple days ago. Okay, well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to open up Activity Monitor. And I'm thinking to myself, what? What sort of path from the notes that she has in front of her is she leading me down? And I said, look, I'm a Apple consultant, so I've done a lot of these. I work with a lot of clients who need batteries. I need to send this into Depot. I want you to just send me a box. But we had to go through this laundry list of questions. Really tried my patience.
I mean, honestly, I kind of get the flow chart of that, where a lot of clients might be complaining about not having good battery, especially pre-M1, The culprit could be some app that's just like pegging a CPU core or something.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Oh, I noticed that this Norton antivirus has 120%. Is that good? It's doing a really good job looking for viruses, right? Mm-hmm. So that was my little journey down Apple support the other day, literally 2 days ago. So both of you guys had the recent holiday, right? Thanksgiving. Both of you enjoy yourselves. Have a good time.
Yeah. Filled with turkey.
Any grilling from the relatives on tech tips or tech troubleshooting that you had to do?
Always. I mean, isn't that the same for you guys too?
Yeah, this is why I moved across the country.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
right.
don't have
That's
to
why you're in
answer questions
Colorado.
at Thanksgiving. That's the number one reason. No, we spent it with some friends out in the mountain, not in the mountain, but like, out in the mountains, I guess. Yeah, and it was really fun. It's this new thing, the last 2 years really just like having time with friends instead of family around the holidays for me. We just had like the Friendsgiving. So I'm looking forward to being back for Christmas and New Year's later this month, now that we're in December as we record. Thanksgiving was a friend's thing, and we also got to puppy sit for a different friend, and that was awesome. Just a great time to spend some time a long weekend with the puppy and not have to have any of the real responsibility beyond that 3-day weekend. So it's like the best parts of having a puppy and none of the like long-term responsibility. So that was really fun.
You shared the picture with us, Joe. It was a really cuddly looking puppy. And the good thing was, based on that size in the picture, even if you had to clean up accidents, couldn't have been that bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, liquid's still liquid though. So, if it's a rug or something, it's not fun.
I'm the one that made an accident, not that kind though. I actually knocked over an entire cup of tea. I'm not going to blame the puppy. This is all me. I just,
You were house sitting too, or just puppy
house sitting? Yeah, exactly. Along with puppy sitting. So yeah, no tech questions from the puppy, thankfully. We try to be very, very responsible for this puppy. We, of course, it's like in our care. So we watched it every minute. I mean, we played with it constantly. It was like, I think it had a really good time with us, just being there the whole weekend. And it was a little bit of a vacation for us too, like being out of our apartment and in somebody else's condo and just, having this new responsibility. It got us thinking a little bit.
Really? About getting a dog?
The question comes up. There's a lot of bigger questions there involved as well, but
read between the tea leaves.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The tea leaves. Nice. Yeah.
Well, a funny thing happened to me while we were sitting around. We went to see relatives out in Pennsylvania. This is the second year that we've done this. After dinner and after everyone's had dessert, they do 2 truths and a lie. And it's kind of fun, and everybody has a little good time with it. So I did mine, and we get to this older guest, a slightly older guest, and I would say this guy's probably in his early 70s. His 2 truths and a lie were as follows. His first one was that he went to the Bonneville Salt Flats. And again, we don't know whether this is the truth or it's a lie, but all the other people can ask him a few questions and then decide which one's the lie. And so his first story was he went to the Bonneville Salt Flats, and he was a pit guy for a motorcycle that was trying to set the world speed record. And his second statement was that he had a professor at school who became famous because he's the one who gave the LSD to spiders to see what kind of webs they would weave.
Oh yeah, that's I was gonna say cool experiment, but then I also think, isn't that animal cruelty? I mean, I don't like what was the dose on that? It's already measured in micrograms,
It would have to be, I would think. And so he mentioned the professor's name, and he said, well, that was my professor. And his third thing that he said, I'm in Doylestown and I'm getting gas. And he said, and I looked across the highway, just happened to look out of the corner of my eye, and there's this van with darkened windows. And I'm looking at my iPhone while I'm getting gas, and this thing pops up and it says FBI surveillance van Wi-Fi. And then it goes away. It disappeared. And he told that one with like a lot of gusto. His lie was that he was not a pit guy in the Bonneville Salt Flats for this motorcycle trying to set the world speed record. I was like chuckling to myself as soon as those words FBI surveillance van left his lips. It was a terrific sensation at the table when I said, and I just thought that was comical.
Well, I've actually heard that before. Other people have used that. I have a friend who sometimes names his iPhone personal hotspot something like FBI surveillance,
Exactly.
and goes to parties and like turns it on, and then just to like let people at the party know, maybe just be careful what you say and what you do.
Because we all know that the FBI, they are really cagey. That's what they would name their SSID.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
They wouldn't call it free Wi-Fi. They would call it FBI surveillance van.
Oh,
everybody at the table thought that was, wonderful that I had this lie. And he seemed relieved that in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, he wasn't being surveilled by the FBI. And it was so funny. The thing that he shared too was like, it popped up. And I said, well, the reason why it popped up, you've got a slider on your phone that says ask to join other hotspots. You need to turn that off. Oh, okay. Thank you. I feel a lot better now.
I can't believe that feature is still like, I still see it sometimes. And, it's like, I guess that was useful in like the first iPhone, or the first few. I don't know. I just feel like it's so, does anybody use that? It seems more like trouble than it's worth, if you're ever like walking around and it's just like lighting up constantly, telling you to join some random Wi-Fi.
It's crazy. And it drains your battery too.
Right.
So if you get a new iPhone today, you're a new customer, you're switching over from Android. Is that feature enabled by default? Because we've migrated from phones that have had it disabled.
I don't know, Sam. Save it for next Thanksgiving. That would be a good pop quiz around the table. I wish I knew the answer to that, because I feel like do you get a lot of switchers these days? Like all of my clients already have an iPhone. You know what I mean? It's very rare that somebody's getting an iPhone for the first time. There must be some people out there, but
there are. Yeah, it actually reminded me. We switched over this company from Dells to MacBook Pros. A couple of the users are getting iPhones now, and this one woman has an Android. And I was like, well, we can get Sue over to an iPhone sometime soon. She's like, you are not taking my Android out of my hands. I was like, oh, okay. She was kind of half joking, but at the same time, she was like, I already made the switch from Windows to Mac. That's enough for my lifetime at this point. I'm going to keep my Android.
It's an interesting question about, why some people really prefer Android. I don't know why I feel like that's the exception, like the default is to prefer the iPhone. But when I meet some new person or, friend who uses Android, a lot of times there's this sense that I have that someone cares more about being like anti-Big Brother, probably cares a lot about privacy and security. And I'm thinking, that's what the iPhone is for. I know it's kind of like a combination of conflicting ideas. You have this big multinational company, at various times the highest market capitalization on earth. I mean, it's like the most massive company in the world now, the underdog, Apple, from back in the day of all companies. They're a massive company. They're like the scapegoat for modern tech concerns that should be blamed on probably other companies like Facebook and stuff. But people look at Apple and think, oh, I'm skeptical. They're this big multinational company. They're a big brother, when in fact they are the company that logic tells us like they stand more for privacy and security than a lot of other companies, certainly than Google. I mean, Google doesn't, it's not that it's insecure by default, but the problem is that a lot of things don't stay as up to date as Apple is able to ensure that their, users' devices stay up to date with the latest security patches and things. And also on Android, of course, made by Google, and Google is in the business of selling ads, counter to Apple, of course, who's in the business of selling hardware. They have just conflicting biases, and I think I would trust Apple for that reason. It's not a new statement, but it's just funny to me when people think Android is the safer platform or the one for, it's like the underdog platform, when it's actually more popular. It's very strange.
I would like to introduce you to my father, because that is my father right there. He's anti-Apple all the way, and he's anti anything that's like you said, Joe, kind of establishment, right? Anything that's big, considered to be Big Brother or whatever. And so he's like, I like my Android. With Apple, you have to do everything Apple's way, and you have to buy their music and all this other stuff. He gets into it big time, and I'm like, Dad, and then he thinks that his device is more private, like you were saying, Joe. I was like, if you only knew, the level of differences there between Google and Apple, and how with Google, your privacy is completely out the window, and that's exactly what they're going for, is all your personal information in comparison. So we've had these talks, but I gave up the fight a while ago. I'm just not going to support him on the Android, though.
Well, right. Maybe it's easier for you, and as a result, not to have to worry about that, because it's hard. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it's hard to support family sometimes, just with the same level that we support our clients. It's just different. And so it's hard to advise them sometimes. It's also really hard to have that conversation about switching. People are just really ideological about it. It's almost like political.
Yeah, it completely is.
But I did get a follow-up call from my relatives post-Thanksgiving, a couple days later. And this is kind of interesting. It doesn't speak to Android and Apple, but they are currently getting service for T-Mobile. They don't get unlimited data, and they're paying, I think, $40 per person a phone. So a total of $80 for their plan. They're ripe for either switching to Verizon or AT&T. And I said, well, you may have to pay a little more to get unlimited data. And they said, oh, no, that's fine. They're both over 55. I had no idea this existed until I did some digging. Both Verizon and AT&T have senior citizen plans. Basically, you can get 2 lines for $80 with unlimited data. Great, huh? And it works the same way with Verizon, but it only works for people that are in Florida. There's a webpage for this, and I'll share that with you right now in the chat. Yeah, so if you're in Florida, you can get this great deal, but anywhere else in the country, you can't get this discount for seniors. It's only one state in the whole United States that they allow this rate.
Otherwise, well, it's a state with the most seniors, so I guess that's
right. Otherwise, you're paying something like $60 a line. So he's saying, look, I'm paying 80 now. There's no way I'm going to pay those blankety blanks $120. I'm going to stay with T-Mobile because they're $80, but I don't want to pay Verizon or AT&T $120. It's like the cable industry. And I said, look, Jeff, I agree with you. It's highway robbery. If you're a senior, you can't get 2 lines, one for you and your wife or your spouse for $80.
I guess the big question is, are you moving to Florida, Jerry?
Well, Sam, I get a teacher discount. I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm in the educational market. I'm already all set with my AT&T plan. Thank you very much. I'm an educator, Sam. I'm an educator. So I know we talked on the show before about AirTags, and I've been one of those guys who's like, nah, what do I need a GD AirTag for? I don't lose stuff. I don't have a knapsack that I have to look around the house for. Well, I can tell you about 2 weeks ago, I had misplaced my keys. They ended up being in the cellar, right? But I must have spent an hour looking for the keys. I wanted to go out for a walk or a run, and I remember that my style was really curbed by the fact that I couldn't find the keys. I normally put them in this one drawer when I walk in the house. Sure as heck, they're always in that drawer. They weren't there. I couldn't find them. Nobody else was home. Couldn't commandeer the whole family to do a search. So I said, that's it. I'm through with this. I'm buying an AirTag. I'm buying one. I'm going to give Apple money for one AirTag, and this is going to solve my problem, right? So I buy the AirTag, and now I'm looking for something that can sort of go on my key ring that doesn't look all dingly, dangly, jangly. A lot of these AirTag holders that go on your key ring are kind of ornamental, and they sort of drapey, and I just wanted something tight and compact. And I found this great little case for an AirTag from Elevation Lab, elevationlab.com, and it's called the Tag Vault. And I sent you guys the link to it in the chat. Take a look at that, guys. We'll wait. This is a live podcast, but we'll wait.
I love the Elevation Lab stuff. They really do have really nicely engineered and nicely aesthetically pleasing hardware. My first take on this one when you sent it was it looks a little over-engineered because the AirTags are bigger than you'd expect, kind of, right? I mean, and then this is going to go around the AirTag, and then that's going to go on your keychain. I keep a really simple keychain. I don't know that I'd want this on my keychain.
Well, take a look at that picture. Scroll down, see how it's waterproof and durable. So there's a little bit more to my story. Okay. So sit tight. This is fantastic, right? I order it up. I get it really quick. It came from Oregon. Yeah, these guys are nice. And you're right, Joe. They make little gadgets, little doodads for your watch or for your phone and cool looking stuff. And you're right. This is engineered quite nicely, and it puts it in this real nifty case. So I got it, and it's on my key ring, and it's fantastic, right? It looks fantastic, and it's keeps my AirTag scratch-free. Not that that's my big worry, but it looks nice. It's a couple days later, I'm grooving now because I got the AirTag. I can't find my keys. No problem. I open up the Find My, and I start pinging the thing, like play the sound. I can't hear anything. I can't hear a GD thing. I'm looking for my keys. I'm playing the sound. I can't be like you, say I'm salty all the time. I don't want to have to believe
all the time.
Just for the show.
So I'm looking around. I can't find it, playing the noise. Finally, I find the keys. They're actually in the door. We've all done that. And I put my ear to the key case from Elevation Lab, and I hear,
huh.
I hear this little squeak coming out, and I'm like, oh, this is crap. This is crap. Wow. This has to go back. I don't care what I paid for it. I'm going to pay the shipping. It doesn't matter. After I pay the shipping, I want my $7 back or whatever. So they did this great job of making this fantastic looking case that's waterproof, but you can't hear it.
That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. It says on the website that it has signal and sound pass through, and they say specifically about the sound that the chirp is about 2/3 the volume of an uncased AirTag. So it sounds like it was quite a bit more quiet than 2/3 the volume of an AirTag.
It didn't pass my smell test at all. And I'm now with some Belkin thing where the AirTag is out in the breeze and I can hear it. If I lose my keys, I'll be able to find them. But what a win and what a loss. Who cares? But at the end of the day, it was fun. It was like $13. They actually paid shipping back. So I got my $13 back and I'm happy. I couldn't hear it.
Looks like a review on their site here, Jerry. It says, nice product, but they're too GD quiet. Was that you?
Sam, did you see they have one for a pet collar? You could attach one to Loki's collar.
I threw my AirTag right on the collar, just letting it get all messed up and everything. It still works fine.
Well, how did you attach it? Did you tape it on there or something?
They sell, well, I don't know if you're looking at Elevation Labs, but at Apple, they sell the keychain attachment for it. It's a rubber piece that you just pop on there.
Gotcha.
Well, I don't want to dominate the show, but my life is filled with minutia. So I can't share it with my wife because she doesn't want to hear about it. So I have to share it with you guys and our listeners. So over the weekend, holiday weekend, Thanksgiving here in the United States, on the Disney Channel, they released all 8 hours of the Beatles Get Back, the Beatles filming and recording the Let It Be album. I've gotten through most of it, but I have a couple of observations I'd like to share. First of all, when I was a kid growing up, everybody made a big deal about how Yoko broke up the Beatles and she was such an intrusion into their creative process. She very nicely sits there through all 8 hours that I watched. She doesn't make a peep. She sits there quiet as a mouse and she's doing some Japanese calligraphy at one point. So she was not this dragon lady that everybody made her out to be as being the wedge and splitting the Beatles apart. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But one of the things that also came to mind was how many cigarettes everybody smoked. Everybody was smoking. Wow. Cigarette after cigarette after cigarette. The whole studio, I'm supposed the whole studio was in like a cloud of smoke. Everybody smoked, maybe except for George Martin. And there was lots of tea. A tremendous amount of tea was being drunk all the time, and toast. Tea and toast. So it was quite interesting to see that culturally, how things have changed, certainly with the smoking, but how tea is a big part of any Brits regimen, I guess, even present day. So that was interesting. The highlight for me was they were able to capture on film this one moment where McCartney is holding his bass and he's just strumming along. He didn't have anything written down, starting to hum a melody and play a little bit of chords. Out of watching this process for about, I guess it went on for maybe 10 minutes or so, the song Get Back emerges, finds lightning in a bottle as he's strumming along. And you watch the birth of this song. And I don't know, whether you guys like that song or not, but it's not important.
Great song.
What's amazing is that you get to see it actually just emerge. Things like Let It Be and The Long and Winding Road, he had kind of something going in his head, and he sat down at the piano and he kind of knew the chords, and he didn't know all the words, of course. And that's another funny thing too, is when you watch this Beatles stuff and they're trying to find the right words. JoJo left her home in Tucson, Arizona. They didn't have the word Tucson. They were using other substitute words for it. And it's come on, guys, it's Tucson. Tucson. So it's how this stuff all ended up. And it's really kind of funny to watch it because they're just trying to find the right match as they craft the song. But this moment of him just pulling this out of the air, Get Back, is just truly, truly amazing to watch. I don't know how most mainstream people could watch this 8 hours, because a lot of it is really tedious. And I'm not a super Beatles fan. I enjoy the Beatles and I grew up with them. So for me, it's interesting. And, being a part-time musician, kind of enjoy watching that whole thing unfold. But a lot of it tries your patience. It's interesting to watch, but it's not for everybody.
It's kind of like the magic of making this show. We record for 8 hours and you get it down to about 40 minutes. You got to keep that for the archives, Jerry.
Right. This is where the concept of technical debt first emerged on the show, Command Control Power.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard about it as well. And I heard some similar reviews as to what you said, Jerry, about some of it can be quite tedious to just listen to. And you hit the nail right on the head when you were talking about trying to fill in that line of like Tucson, for instance, and you know it. And you're like, geez, like say it already. Like, I know that's the freaking line. I think I can sit, I don't know. It's like 8 hours, right?
It's 8 hours in its entirety. Yeah. You could watch it in sessions, obviously.
I will just add on to, not about the Beatles, but I'll add on one thing because it's in the similar vein, is the documentary about the Velvet Underground. If you haven't heard or seen of that, that is quite good. Definitely in the opposite direction in terms of cheery versus very downtrodden. But if you're into that, their music or anything like that, that was an excellent documentary also on Apple TV Plus. I think it was just called The Velvet Underground. I'll look it up just to be sure. But it was really quite interesting and a little bit more on the sadder side because of Lou Reed's life wasn't exactly perfect. But it was very interesting, the whole New York scene back then and everything behind the scenes of their music and their style of music, which was pretty unique.
Absolutely. It was all groundbreaking. I wasn't, I was aware of that sound, but it wasn't something that I focused on or tuned into.
I liked them. I had their albums back in the day and everything. But
did you?
I would listen from Guns N' Roses to, we talked about some of the music that we actually shared, Jerry, which you were a little surprised about. Nick Drake, you're like, wow, I didn't realize you listened to that. Just, I don't know, a lot of different music strikes me, so I'll buy the album and check it out.
Now, did you have an older brother that was into this kind of stuff, or?
I'm the oldest in my family, actually. So I don't know what it was that caught me onto some of that music.
Did you have a peer that was listening to it in school and he would say like, hey man, check this out? Or you just discovered it on your own?
Maybe, because I remember some bands that I did discover through that, like the band Squeeze. I remember someone in like 8th grade giving me their CD or something like that. And I got into them because of that. So I'm sure a lot of it was someone I knew in my life that introduced the music to me.
So speaking of music shows, have you guys seen the From the Basement series? That's pretty good if you like to see bands playing live and in like a really interesting setting. Radiohead, one of my favorite all-time bands, did one there. I think you can get it through iTunes for the Radiohead one and maybe elsewhere. There's a bunch of them out there. You guys were asking about any tech support offered or asked for around the holidays. And actually, I did remember that my sister-in-law reached out. I think she texted and called me. It was probably on Thanksgiving Day or Friday, something like that. And she was up at her dad's house. She had brought her Apple TV. They all wanted to watch the new Tom Hanks movie on Apple TV Plus.
Did you watch Finch, by the way?
I did, yeah. Are we in the show? Like,
yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, Joe. You're gonna have to start the whole thing over.
Jerry had coffee before the show. All right, here we go. My wife's sister calls. She has this Apple TV with her, and she wanted to watch the new Tom Hanks movie, Finch, on Apple TV Plus with her dad and whoever else was up there for the holidays for Thanksgiving. So she calls saying, I have the Apple TV, but I forgot the remote. What can I do? I have the remote app downloaded on my phone. I said, great. So if you've previously used that app, that'll just work. You just need the Apple TV to be on the network. So you can try plugging it into the network. Your iPhone will be on Wi-Fi. That's one option. So you could try that. Also, you could plug it into the TV, and even if it's offline, you should be able to AirPlay to it from your phone. So you could, like worst case scenario, watch the movie on your iPhone, but AirPlay it to the Apple TV. And she's kind of like not interested in doing that at first because she didn't want to be without her phone. It's like the phone is hosting the video the entire time, which is not ideal. But that was another thing I thought of. So she starts to kind of mess with the Apple TV, getting it connected to the TV and all, and it keeps going black. So she says, it went to sleep again. And I said, well, you should be able to, I'm trying to think if you can like wake it up if you don't have the remote. I guess worst case, like you could unplug it from power and plug it back in, let it start up again. I said, you could try like unplugging the HDMI cable and plugging it back in and seeing if that wakes it up. I wasn't sure if that would. So I'm just giving her different suggestions and things. And it turns out that the HDMI cable is like faulty and it's just unreliable. So it's holding a signal for like a few seconds or a few minutes and then just going black. That basically meant the whole project was tabled at that point. But do you guys know this? Like, I'm really surprised this has not come up for me. Like, what would you tell a client? Like, somebody goes to give a presentation in a boardroom somewhere, nobody can find the Apple TV remote. Is there some workaround that I'm not thinking of? What if you didn't have the Apple TV remote app paired with the Apple TV ahead of time? I guess AirPlay is always an option, so you give your presentation that way. But have you guys tried this before? Have you been in the situation where you've lost a remote? I mean, is there any way to solve that? Save Thanksgiving Day, save Thanksgiving dinner?
I think you went through the pieces that you would have to go through. If you don't have a remote and you've never paired the app before, AirPlay is your last ditch effort. And if you're out of luck there for whatever reason, I don't know what else you would do. Your Thanksgiving's ruined.
Exactly. And I was trying to remember, like, would the remote app work locally somehow, like through Bluetooth? I'm not sure that would work. Like, I think if the Apple TV is not on Wi-Fi already, then you would need an Ethernet cable to even get it on the network, to be able to control it from your phone, I'm pretty sure. So AirPlay is kind of a good worst case scenario, but without the HDMI cable working and being reliable, that was just, I was like, well, forget it. There's really not much you can do. This is like an unsolvable, annoying problem.
If there was some way you could connect it via Ethernet, you wouldn't have to worry about that. And then the phone, if it was connected to the Wi-Fi, would just automatically see it.
I think they might have to be on the same, iCloud account, the same, I don't know if they still call it home sharing or whatever, but, then
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think you just get a pop-up on your phone that says, hey, there's this Apple TV out here on the same network as you, and you could use this remote app with it.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure about that.
Because that happens to me every time I go to sleep. I'm looking at my phone and my wife's watching the TV. So this is quite amusing. My wife, she's awake and I'm going to sleep. She'll watch Glee, but she won't turn on the sound. So she watches Glee with subtitles. The whole show Glee is basically based around people singing these songs that we know that have been on the radio and them doing their own, interpretation of it, because it's supposed to be like an art school or something. Just think that's just the funniest thing to me is that she watches Glee with no sound.
That's pretty funny. That's like watching the new Beatles documentary with subtitles.
Exactly.
You reminded me of something funny with that because you mentioned how the Apple TV will show, with your phone, it'll show the ability for you to type in a title if someone's searching for something. So for a while, I was actually messing with my son for a good solid, maybe a year straight. Like he would just like, oh, I want to watch Spider-Man, and he would say, put into a Siri on the remote, and she'd like Spider-Man, and I would put in like Batman Returns or something like that. That's not what I said, and he'd start yelling. Then I started getting even more evil because then when he started typing in stuff, I would be like, Ethan, I am watching you or something like that. And he's like, Dad, the TV's freaking out on me. I had a lot of laughs at that. It took me everything I had to keep a straight face for the longest time until, he finally found me out one day. But it was pretty good.
That's terrific.
I don't know why that reminds me of the Seinfeld where Kramer impersonates the movie phone movie lookup service. That's so good. Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie? That's so great.
Hello, and welcome to Movie Phone.
See, all he was missing were those little bloop bloop kind of sounds in the background. Then they would have been more believable,
Hello, and welcome to Movie Phone. If you know the name of the movie you'd like to see, press 1.
Jerry does his voices of customers of all kinds.
Am I on the cloud?
Joe spins his deeply detailed yarns all the time.
I have a whole story about this.
Sam is on the road again, phoning in from a hotel.
At least we know where I am.
Half a century